The air we breathe, the light that falls upon our skin, the very thoughts that spin and dance within the silent corridors of the mind. All of it is a subtle, humming field of information, a symphony of frequency woven from the same invisible thread. And yet, for thousands of years, we have been taught to interpret the world through a language of bricks and mortar, of dogma and ritual, of rules laid down in stone. We have been handed a map of the universe drawn in black and white, when the truth, the living truth, is a spectrum of endless color. We are told to bow our heads in reverence, to kneel before a deity cast in a human image, all while the raw, untamed, and infinitely intelligent force of creation lies dormant, waiting to be remembered within every cell of our being. This is the great irony of our time, the most profound spiritual bypass in all of human history. We look for God in a book, in a church, in a saintly figure on a pedestal, all while the very essence of creation lies dormant, waiting to be remembered within every cell of our being. The one they called Jesus, the man whose name has been cloaked in the heavy robes of organized religion, was not a purveyor of dogma. He was a master of this forgotten language. He did not come to start a new religion. He came to expose the cosmic laws that religion would later obscure. He taught a radical truth, that the very essence of existence is energy, and that we are not separate from it, but a living, breathing part of its continuous flow. What if everything you have been told about faith, about salvation, about the very purpose of your life was merely the outer shell of a much deeper, much more powerful understanding? Imagine a world where the teachings of Jesus were not about moral codes or blind belief, but about a practical, scientific, and deeply personal relationship with the vibrational fabric of reality. This is the truth that has been obscured, buried beneath layers of political agendas and institutional control. It is a hidden gospel that speaks not of heaven and hell as destinations, but as states of consciousness, as frequencies we align with through our thoughts, our intentions, and our actions. Have you ever felt that there was a hidden architecture beneath the surface of reality, a silent, unseen force guiding the currents of your life? Perhaps that is not just a feeling, but a deep-seated knowing that your soul has never truly forgotten. We are living in an illusion we once called life, and this truth is hiding behind our every belief. We are born into a world of programmed assumptions and societal contracts, and we are told to chase things that have no substance. We seek validation through likes on a screen, measure our worth by a salary, and define our success by the approval of a system that often benefits from our collective amnesia. This is the modern-day version of the cave, where the shadows on the wall, the fleeting social media trends, the empty promises of consumerism, are mistaken for true reality. We become so entangled in the act of playing a role someone else wrote for us that we forget we are the playwright, the director, and the lead actor all at once. The teachings of Jesus were a direct and powerful rebellion against this kind of collective hypnosis. He didn't just speak to people. He used his words and presence as a tuning fork to realign their energetic frequency with their truest, most authentic selves. When he healed the sick, he was not performing a supernatural trick. He was helping them remember their own perfect vibrational blueprint, the pure, uncorrupted frequency they were born with. He was a living portal, a reminder that we are all capable of such resonance. Consider the metaphor of the broken mirror. The world is a perfect, seamless reflection of our inner state, but somewhere along the way, we broke the mirror. We were taught to believe in a fragmented reality, a reality where mind and body are separate, where we are cut off from the divine, where pain is punishment and suffering is a virtue. This is the great deception. Jesus was not trying to put the mirror back together. He was showing us that the reflection was an illusion all along. The true work, the true mastery, is not in fixing the external world, but in dissolving the internal false self, the ego that clings to the fractured image in the mirror. This journey is about unlearning what was never true, about dismantling the false self and the programs running inside your mind, installed by society, religion, trauma, and fear. It is a journey that often requires us to face our inner darkness, to navigate the chaotic and raw experience of the dark night of the soul. But in that breaking, that unraveling, the light can finally get in. This is the purpose of this exploration, not to offer you new beliefs to subscribe to, but to give you a lens through which to see the old ones dissolve. We will not be talking about scripture in the traditional sense, but about the hidden energetic codes encoded within the stories, the parables, and the actions of a man who understood frequency better than any modern physicist. We will discuss the true nature of his miracles, not as acts of magic, but as demonstrations of a deep, intuitive mastery of energy and vibration. We will explore how his teachings, stripped of religious dogma, offer a radical roadmap for personal transformation and for remembering the original you, before Earth, before time, before programming. This is an invitation to see Jesus not as a figure from a dusty history book, but as a cosmic guide who showed us how to navigate the subtle, unseen forces that govern our reality. He didn't just talk about truth and love, he was a living embodiment of their vibrational signature, a beacon reminding us of the immense, untapped power we carry within. This is not about becoming spiritual. This is about remembering who you were before you forgot. We stand at a unique crossroads in human history. The old paradigms are crumbling, and many of us feel a profound sense of disillusionment with the spiritual teachings we grew up with. We have read the books and tried the tools, but something still feels off, and we are ready to reclaim inner knowing instead of chasing belief. This is not an accident. The time is ripe for us to look beyond the veil, to dismantle the false light and expose the illusions that still hide our truth. This is about the liberation of consciousness, a return to a state of being that is whole, sovereign, and aligned with the creative impulse of the universe itself. Of creation is an interconnected field of vibration. What we perceive as solid matter, the ground beneath our feet, the bodies we inhabit, is merely a dense concentration of energy, vibrating at a specific frequency. This isn't a spiritual belief, but a universal law, a truth as immutable as gravity. The core of Jesus' teaching, stripped of all dogma, was a profound understanding of this law. He did not ask his followers to worship an external God, but to become conscious creators, to learn the art of manipulating frequency with their own intention. He taught that faith was not blind belief, but the unshakable conviction that one's inner state, one's vibrational frequency, could actively rearrange the physical world. This is the ultimate reclamation of power. The understanding that we are not passive observers in a fixed reality, but active participants in its continuous formation. The first great pillar of this hidden teaching is the concept of consciousness as a living frequency. Every thought, every feeling, every word spoken carries a specific vibration. Fear, resentment, and doubt are low-frequency energies that constrict, fragment, and create disharmony in the body and in life. Conversely, feelings of gratitude, compassion, and love are high-frequency energies that expand, heal, and bring about a state of harmonious resonance. Jesus' miracles, when viewed through this lens, were not violations of natural law, but perfect examples of its application. When he healed the blind, the lame, or the sick, he was not simply curing a physical ailment. He was aligning the individual's energy field, which had been corrupted by fear or trauma, back to its original, perfect state of health. He was a master tuner, a vibrational amplifier who showed others how to use their own consciousness as the instrument. He demonstrated that the body is not just flesh, but a complex energetic system that responds to the frequency of the soul within it. The illness we see is often just a physical manifestation of a deeper energetic discord. This leads us to the second pillar, the great spiritual illusion of the separate self, or what we call the ego. The ego is not evil. It is a fragmented piece of consciousness that believes it is separate from everything else. Separate from God, separate from nature, separate from each other. It operates from a place of survival and fear, driven by the desire for external validation, which is a low-frequency state. The ego is the puppeteer, pulling the strings of our emotions and actions, convincing us that we are the roles we play in life, the professional, the parent, the friend, rather than the pure, infinite consciousness that animates them. The teachings of Jesus were a direct and powerful assault on this illusion. His parables were not just stories. They were encoded messages designed to help us see the programs running inside our minds, installed by society, religion, trauma, and fear. When he spoke of losing one's life to find it, he was speaking the ultimate truth of ego death. that we must dissolve the false identity we have so painstakingly built in order to remember the original, uncorrupted self we forgot. He wasn't advocating for a physical death, but a liberation from the prison of the ego, the I that constantly judges, compares, and competes. The third pillar is the profound power of unlearning. We often chase spiritual knowledge, seeking more books, more teachers, more techniques. But the journey Jesus taught was not about accumulation. It was about stripping away everything that was never true. We were not meant to become spiritual people, but to unlearn the layers of falsehood that keep us from living in alignment with our most authentic inner being. The path of true awakening is a process of dismantling the false self and the programs that hide your truth. This is where shadow work comes in, the difficult and often painful process of confronting the parts of ourselves we have hidden away, our fears, our shame, our deepest traumas. Jesus did not bypass the shadow. He confronted it directly in his parables and in his own journey. He spoke of the darkness not as something to fear, but as a place to find the light, a hidden portal only pain can unlock. His teaching on forgiveness, for example, wasn't a platitude, but an energetic act of releasing the low-frequency cords of resentment that bind us to our past wounds. Finally, the ultimate core theme is love as the highest frequency, the very pulse of creation itself. Jesus' teachings on unconditional love were not just a moral commandment, but a fundamental law of the universe. To love unconditionally is to align with the source frequency of all things. It is to become a channel for the divine, an anchor for the highest possible vibration. This kind of love has nothing to do with sentimentality. It is a raw, untamed, and transformative force that has the power to dissolve all lower frequencies of fear and separation. When he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," he was not speaking of a place you go to after death. He was describing a state of being, a high vibrational frequency you can access and embody in this very moment. This is what it means to live beyond spirituality, to move from simply believing in concepts to becoming a living, breathing embodiment of the truth, to remember the original you, and to live from that space of pure, unadulterated consciousness. Imagine, if you will, not a spiritual teacher, but a cosmic cartographer sent to a world where every map was a forgery. He knew the true terrain was a boundless, energetic landscape, but the inhabitants were trapped in a meticulously crafted labyrinth of their own making. This is the essence of the journey we're on. The teachings of Jesus, when we decode them from their religious trappings, are not just concepts. They are allegorical keys, designed to unlock the doors of a deeper, symbolic reality. They tell a story not of a man, but of the soul's epic struggle to remember its freedom. Consider the timeless allegory of the broken mirror. We are born into this world, and for a time, we see a single, unified reflection of truth. But then, the mirror shatters. It is broken not by malice, but by the relentless pressures of a fragmented world, societal expectations, parental conditioning, the constant clamor of a culture obsessed with comparison. Each shard of the mirror becomes a new reality we are told to inhabit. There is the shard of social media, where we see a dazzling but distorted reflection of ourselves, a carefully curated highlight reel of false success and performative happiness. There is the shard of careerism, where our worth is reflected in our salary and our purpose is measured by our productivity. We spend our lives running from one shard to the next, trying to piece together a coherent image of who we are, never realizing that the image itself is the illusion. Jesus was the one who came not to fix the mirror, but to show us that the true reflection was never in it to begin with. His parables of the lost sheep, the prodigal son, and the pearl of great price were not stories about moral lessons. They were symbolic narratives about the soul's journey to dissolve the illusion of the fragmented self and remember its wholeness. He showed us that the kingdom of heaven is not found by collecting the mirror shards, but by turning inward and realizing that our true essence, our authentic being, is the very light that reflected in the mirror in the first place. This brings us to another powerful narrative, the story of the master and the strings. We have been taught to see ourselves as free-willed individuals, but what if much of our lives are simply a performance, a dance choreographed by an unseen puppeteer? The puppet master is not an external villain. It is the collective consciousness of fear, trauma, and programming that resides within us. It is the voice that tells us we are not good enough, the impulse that makes us seek validation from others, and the habit that keeps us trapped in cycles of self-sabotage. Have you ever felt the strings being pulled in your own life? The subtle tug of social pressure, the invisible threads of a family wound that you keep replaying? Jesus was the one who saw the strings. He didn't just talk about them, he showed people how to cut them. His radical self-sovereignty, his unwavering presence in the face of external chaos, was a living demonstration of what it means to be free from the puppet's dance. His miracles were a rebellion, a declaration that the physical world, the illusion, must bend to the will of a consciousness that is not being controlled. He taught that by mastering our own energetic frequency, by unlearning the core beliefs that give the puppet master power, we could step out of the show and become the sovereign creator of our own reality. Finally, consider the ancient tale of the cosmic seed. The soul, your authentic essence, is like a seed of immense power and potential. But a seed cannot blossom while it is still clinging to the tree. It must be released, fall into the darkness, and be buried beneath the heavy weight of the earth. This darkness, this death before new life, is the symbolic representation of the spiritual crisis, the dark night of the soul. We are conditioned to fear the darkness, to run from pain and uncertainty, and to seek only the light and love that modern spirituality often promotes. But the hidden gospel tells us that this darkness is not an endpoint, but a necessary portal. The pressure of the earth is what forces the seed to break open, to shed its shell and send down roots. The painful moments of our lives, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the career failure, are not punishments. They are the moments when the seed is finally buried deep enough to begin its transformation. Jesus' own journey through suffering and his eventual resurrection are a powerful cosmic symbol of this process. He showed us that true rebirth is only possible after a complete surrender to the darkness, after a willingness to face and integrate the shadow. He wasn't afraid of the storm. He understood that the storm was the very thing that would wash away the false self and allow the authentic, higher self to finally emerge. The kingdom of heaven is not an escape from this process. It is a full, embodied presence within it. To move from the grand cosmic blueprints to the lived-in reality of our daily existence is the true work of awakening. It's one thing to understand that everything is energy and that the ego is an illusion, but it's another thing entirely to apply these truths when your boss sends a passive-aggressive email, when a loved one triggers a deep-seated wound, or when you scroll through a social media feed filled with curated lives that feel far more perfect than your own. The hidden gospel of energy is not a philosophy to be debated. It is a technology to be applied. It offers a practical roadmap for navigating the very real chaos of the human experience, showing us how to reclaim our power, not by fighting the world, but by mastering our own inner state. The first practical implication is to reframe every challenge as a vibrational signal. Your emotional reactions, the surge of anger, the pit of anxiety, the ache of jealousy, are not moral failures. They are not something to be suppressed or judged. They are simply low-frequency indicators, telling you that your consciousness has momentarily aligned with a state of discord. They are the puppet master's strings tightening. The ancient wisdom of Jesus teaches us that true power lies not in controlling the external world, but in becoming the silent, unflinching observer of our internal one. When someone says something that triggers a sharp reaction within you, the old program tells you to react in kind, to defend, to justify. But the new program, the one he taught, invites you to pause, to feel the energy of that reaction, the heat, the tension, the constriction, without acting on it. This simple act of observation, of becoming a witness to your own emotional state, is the first step toward detaching from the strings and aligning with a higher frequency of calm and clarity. It is in this pause that the transformative power lies. It is the moment you choose not to be the puppet. This practice extends into our relationship with the world of appearances, which is perhaps the most challenging arena for practical application. We live in a society that sells us an identity, a pre-packaged version of success and happiness. The constant barrage of curated images on social media, the relentless pursuit of a career ladder, the pressure to conform to a specific lifestyle. These are the modern-day shadows on the wall of Plato's cave. They are not real, yet we are conditioned to believe they are the ultimate reality. The practical integration here is a radical act of unlearning. It is the conscious choice to redefine success, not by external metrics, but by the resonance of our own soul. It is asking yourself, does this pursuit, this habit, this person align with my highest frequency, or is it a distraction designed to keep me from remembering who I am? This isn't a one-time decision. It is a daily, moment-by-moment practice of listening to your inner knowing over the clamor of external belief systems. It's about stripping away the false self layer by layer until all that remains is the divine, authentic you. In our relationships, this work becomes even more profound. The ego, by its very nature, is built on separation. It thrives on I am right, you are wrong, on competition, and on the need for validation. When we are in conflict with another person, the ego's program is to win the argument, to prove our point, to protect the fragmented image of ourselves. But the spiritual mastery that Jesus demonstrated was about seeing past the ego and into the pure consciousness within the other person. The practical application is to stop fighting with the illusion and start connecting with the truth. When you find yourself in a heated argument, pause and ask yourself, who is arguing here? Is it my authentic self, or is it the programmed ego trying to protect itself? This shifts the dynamic from a battle to an observation. It allows for a response rooted in compassion and understanding, rather than a reaction born from fear. It teaches us that true intimacy is not about finding someone who validates your ego, but about finding someone with whom you can be completely yourself, flaws and all. Finally, the most profound implication of Jesus' energetic teachings is the recognition that every single one of your experiences, from the greatest joy to the deepest pain, is a perfect, customized catalyst for your awakening. The illness that forces you to slow down, the heartbreak that shatters your illusions about love, the career failure that forces you to redefine your purpose. These are not random acts of fate. They are moments when the universe is conspiring to help you unlearn what you are not, so you can remember who you are. The journey is not about escaping suffering, but about using it as a portal. This is the practical truth of the dark night of the soul, that the most profound transformation often begins in the crucible of your deepest pain. By embracing these moments as opportunities for growth rather than punishments, you reclaim your power and become the sovereign creator of your own reality. We have journeyed together, moving from the esoteric to the everyday, and in doing so, we have come full circle. We began by lifting the veil on a great cosmic irony, that a figure cloaked in the heavy fabric of religion was, in fact, a master of universal energy. We have seen how his teachings were not about a distant salvation, but about the immediate, embodied liberation of consciousness from the programs and illusions that bind it. We've deconstructed the grand narrative, peeling back the layers of dogma to reveal a core truth, that everything is frequency, that our consciousness is a creator, and that the ego is a broken mirror reflecting a fragmented reality. And we've learned that the true path of awakening is a process of unlearning, a brave descent into the very darkness we were taught to avoid. Now, we stand at the threshold of a choice. The map has been revealed, the allegories have been shared, and the practical implications for everyday life are clear. The question is no longer, what do I believe, but how will I live? This is the moment to move beyond spirituality, to stop chasing light and love as external concepts, and to begin embodying them as an internal frequency. It is an invitation to stop seeking validation from the external world, to let go of the fragmented identities we have so carefully constructed, and to finally allow the truth of who we are to breathe freely. This is not about becoming a better version of your current self. It is about dissolving the self that was never you in the first place. The journey is messy, it is uncomfortable, and it will challenge every belief you hold dear. It will require you to face your own inner shadows, to sit with the pain you have long suppressed, and to look at the parts of yourself you have been taught to be ashamed of. But within that darkness, in the crucible of the dark night of the soul, is the most profound alchemical transformation. Remember the story of the cosmic seed. The seed does not become a magnificent tree by avoiding the darkness of the soil. It becomes what it is destined to be by surrendering to the pressure, by breaking its shell, and by sending down roots into the very earth that threatens to consume it. Your pain, your trauma, your moments of crisis, these are not failures. They are the rich, fertile soil of your awakening. This is the moment to stop running from them and to begin welcoming them as the portals they are. When you choose to do this work, you are not just healing yourself. You are sending a new frequency into the collective field of humanity. You are choosing to be an anchor for truth in a world drowning in illusion. You are choosing to be the living testament to a hidden gospel that says you are not powerless, you are not a victim, and you are not separate. The path of the authentic self is a path of profound courage. It is the courage to stand naked in the face of a world that demands you wear a mask. It is the courage to let go of the puppet strings, even when the dance is all you've ever known. It is the courage to define success on your own terms, to love without condition, and to live with a sovereign, unshakable peace that comes from knowing who you truly are. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are an infinite, multidimensional being having a temporary human experience. The man they called Jesus did not come here to save you. He came here to remind you that you are already the light, you are already the truth, and you are already free. He showed us that the kingdom of heaven is not a destination to be reached, but a frequency to be embodied. Your liberation is not found in a book or in a building. It is found within you, waiting to be remembered. It's time to go where the soul remembers. If this reflection resonates with you, share the moment you first saw the strings in your own life.